girl named Sky, who is actually a half human, half Reaper, and in this world, hybrid children are forbidden. So if you have a half Reaper child and a half human, that was forbidden to even happen. And there's even Nephilim involved in Grim Love. That is one of the main characters. His name is Jack. He's a main character like Sky in it. And the whole story, you get to learn more about the Grimm and the whole horde of Reapers, Angels of Death, actually, in it. You get different types of facts about them, abilities that they have, and you get to learn a little bit about the war going on with Sam and the rules that they have to undergo in our realm.
Wow, interesting. Now, I mean, so give me a little bit of a plot, a little bit more. I mean, you know, just for we can get into it.
Okay, so in Grim Love, it is, like I said, it's forbidden. God made a decree because between the war between heaven and hell, you have angels on heaven's side, and then you have the demons and fallen angels on hell's side, and then in the middle, that's neutral, you have Reapers, and they just collect the dead. Well, you started having relationships between angels and Reapers and demons and Reapers, and then they become biased. And so God and the Grimm and Lucifer make a decree that there are no relationships amongst any sides. You have to stick to your own. So angel, angel, Reaper, Reaper, demon, demon. You know what I mean? And absolutely no relationships with humans whatsoever. And that's where the story starts with Sky as a child being found by a Reaper. And actually, a friend of hers is having an asthma attack and dying, and she reaps her soul without even knowing that she was doing it. And that's how she meets Jessa, the Reaper, who takes her in kind of like in a motherly way and hides her from everyone to protect her. And Jessa is a rule breaker. She's one of my favorite characters I've written. She's kind of a rule breaker, but she hides her with these witches in over Colorado, a little mountainside town, and they put a protection on her, where she can't be found. And so she's trained and hidden away from everything for just to prepare for whenever one day she's discovered by either side.
Interesting. So, now, question in your book, I mean, there used to be a show, I can't remember the name of it, but, they would go and people had just died and take them into the light, basically. But then there was another show before that, maybe about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, mm-hmm. that they knew, they would go up to the people that they knew who were going to die and basically made sure that, they were destined to die, and they made sure that that's what happened without interfering. But there was times where these angels, wanted to interfere, and they didn't want that person to die, but they couldn't really do anything about it. Is there anything like that in your book at all? A little bit to confuse people?
It's funny you brought that up because one of the first people that reviewed my book actually contacted me and said, hey, your book reminds me of this show. I can't remember the name of the show either. I bet I could find it on YouTube probably somewhere. But it was about these death angels that would go around reaping souls for people that died, and they would, try to help them on their way. I never watched that show growing up, even though it was during my childhood days. But I looked at it and I was like, wow, I couldn't believe, a lot of the similarities in that in my book. Not too many, but there was a lot in there. But instead of like a group of, in my book, there's not a group of them, that you meet like there was in this TV show. It's just these two that you get to know, Jessa and Sky.
Oh, wow. So they didn't have the meetings like it, and having breakfast and having the meetings. Well, today, I'm going to go.
No,
yeah.
They didn't have anything.
I know, that was a bad joke.
When they feel they need to reap a soul, it's just like a hum, a feeling that they get. There's no meetings at the breakfast table. There's no meet with the Grim Reaper himself. There's nothing. It's a knowing feeling and a draw, and they just automatically, intentionally know where to go when that happens.
Okay, so when it happened, did they ever feel in your book that they want to try? Maybe they feel like, well, gee, in this case, that maybe it shouldn't happen, or do they have those type of feelings or anything to confuse the reader at all?
No, they're trained from day one that they're neutral. They don't get a say in it. But when the Grim discovers Sky, and he wants her for his own as his bride, but there's Jack, who's this Nephilim in the way. Then things start getting a little biased and not neutral anymore. She wants to protect him. She wants to save him from everything. She'll risk it all just for him.
Oh, wow. Now, again, is that like a weekend read or, a good, is that a kind of a scary book or just when you read it and you go, oh, wow.
Not a scary book, but it's a lot of drama, a lot of action, a lot happening at once. I usually start my books out with a big draw-in action type scene, like in Grimm, Sky, her friend, she's a child and her friend's dying, and she reaps the soul. In Sandman, there's the battle that ensues with the rookie Jenny. But yes, it is a weekend night read that they could easily read it in one night.
Oh, wow. Now, I mean, you wrote, what, 5 books or 6 books?
3, 4, 5, 6 books.
Okay. Well, let's go on to book 3. And again, they can find this through Amazon.
Oh yes, you can look me up, KRISTEN Collins on Amazon, and you can look up Hybrid Love Anthology and find all my books.
Okay. Well, let's go on book number 3. What's behind the door?
The Child with Silver Eyes is it was a joy to write. There's Sky's best friend in Grim Love, who's a witch, and she is just this hippie, always happy and perky, optimistic woman in Grim Love. And then in The Child with Silver Eyes, this is more of her story, and things changed from Grim Love. She went from being this everything's always hunky-dory type of person to her life got turned upside down within no time at all. And she is not in Ouray anymore. She's actually in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, another little mountainside type town, and just trying to start her life over, after some bad stuff happened to her. And then the story actually starts out not with her, but with this alpha shifter, and him stumbling upon a dying angel with a child.
Now, a dying angel, can angels die? I didn't even know that. See, I just learned something.
Well, I mean, angels and demons fight all the time, so in my books, they can. It takes very special type of weapons to happen for that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But But she was actually, she broke the rules, this angel, and fell in love with a shifter who, his pack got turned by Lucifer, and they are actually go from just being regular wolf shifters. When they make a deal with the devil, they become hellhounds. And then she wanted to leave, but she was pregnant, and he ended up keeping her locked away as a prisoner for the baby to be born. And it's not this normal baby. And so when the baby was born, she was able to escape, and she takes off and lunges off this mountains, and he just happened to nick her and severely injure her, and she makes it as far as New Mexico, and she's dying, and she's just holding this baby of hers, and Ash, the main guy character, stumbles upon her, and she's like, protect him, you know, just keep the baby safe, keep her safe. And so it's this whole Navajo tribe of shifter wolves. And then that's how the story begins. And there's this hybrid child they know nothing about, and they don't know the first thing about protecting her. And then here comes Mia not far into the story, and catches the big alpha's attention pretty fast.
Now, I got to ask you, this particular book is quite a bit different than your first book. Again, did this happen again when you were sleeping tonight? You just got the idea about this book, or is this something now, let's be honest here. Do you watch sci-fi or any of those type of scary type movies on TV?
I have watched the originals and Vampire Diaries. I am a diehard fan of the Fallen series by Lauren Kate and the Twilight series. I know I'm one of those nerds when it first came out. And actually, Elisa Moore's series, The Touch Saga, which is a lot about angels and death angels and heaven, hell, witches, all that kind of stuff. I am drawn in very easily by those paranormal type of stories.
Yeah, I that's my problem. You know, I hate to say it. I hardly get to watch TV anymore, but when I do, you know, I kind of like, well, I hate to say it. I like vampire movies. You know, I kind of like, you know, some of the same stuff you mentioned. I kind of get drawn into it because, one, it kind of like empties my brain, and it allows me to fantasize, you know, and that's what I like about paranormal books, and I actually like good books, and a lot of people, you know, nowadays don't read books like they used to, but you know, it's just like old radio days, you know, before TV, people would listen to radio plays, and one thing they would have to do, they would sit on their couch or their chair with a group of friends, right? They would close their eyes and imagine, like when you heard the footsteps and somebody going up a flight of stairs or opening a creaky door. You had to use your brain. You had to use your imagination. And that's what I like about books, because you don't have any visual, but what you read, and you kind of like, you know, close your eyes in between while you're reading, and you imagine these things. And, you know, like, that's what I love about reading. And young people nowadays, a lot of them are not into it. I mean, let's face it, if it isn't watching TV, it's playing video games.
That is true. I love the escape of the paranormal aspect in fantasy books that you get when you read, you know, like the Firelight series by Sophie Jordan. Original books, fantastic books. And I remember reading her books, and I mean, this was before I started writing, and I would just be so addicted to them. I would reread them because it was an escape from, you know, the realities of everyday life. And it's like, oh, I get to live in another world for a few hours in these pages, you know. That's what a lot of book readers, lovers, that's what they like about it. Is they like to be able to escape reality just for a little while.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, your mind really, I mean, you know, and each person could read